Welcome to the deep dive. You sent us down a really fascinating tangled path this time. A real web of information, all connected to something called Mike's Waffen facts.
Yeah, MWF. We've got quite
Ooh.
the pile here. Analyses, episode descriptions, even song lyrics.
It's a lot, and it paints a picture way beyond just, a simple podcast about weapons.
Absolutely. So our goal today, our mission, is really to unpack this whole overarching narrative that seems to weave through the first 4 seasons.
Right. Trace the connections between MWF itself, this Doza crew, the Nova crew.
And how it all seems to converge in what they call the Regulus phase.
Yeah.
We want to pull out those key plot points, the really intriguing details, the stuff that makes you go, hang on.
Okay, so to give everyone a roadmap for this deep dive, we'll kick off with MWF's origins, those early days, the first signs things were a bit off.
Then we'll get into the Doza crew's story, the mainframe revolution, all that.
After that, the Nova crew, graph paste, the end of their world. Sounds cheerful.
Yeah. And finally, we'll try and piece together how these different threads seem to slam together in this Regulus phase.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, let's dive in. Mike's Waffen facts. Where did it all begin?
Well, the premise seems simple enough. Mike's Waffen Facts, or MWF. It's billed as a podcast about, quote, everything that bangs, crashes, and goes boom.
Getchy.
Hosted by Mike, who seems pretty enthusiastic, at least initially. And Rickard, his co-host, more sarcastic, into conspiracies. And then there's Romanka, handling the sound.
So, standard podcast setup.
On the surface, yeah. Early episodes sound like this mix of talk about weapons, military history, some personal stories, questionable humor.
And judging by the notes, quite a bit of beer and doppelkorn.
Seems like it, yeah. But even early on, you start seeing hints. Little things that don't quite add up.
Let's talk about the people involved. Mike, you said he starts enthusiastic.
He does. But the sources suggest this slide into obsession. Experimental weapons, specifically. And he gets more and more paranoid, starts making these wild claims, often involving his father, Gasbold.
Gasbold? He sounds like a recurring figure.
Oh, yeah. Almost mythical. And there's this undercurrent with Mike, this sort of performance of masculinity, trying a bit too hard, maybe.
Interesting. And Rickard, the sarcastic conspiracy guy.
Yeah, Rickard. He starts off almost like the skeptic, questioning Mike, citing facts, international law.
It's like a voice of reason. Ish.
Ish, exactly.
Yeah.
But he's also deep into his own theories. Chemtrails, the CIA. He apparently vomits quite a bit due to chemtrails.
Okay, that's odd.
It adds this layer of bizarre physical comedy, I guess. But he doesn't stay skeptical. He eventually just drifts off into his own wild theories, just as out there as Mike's. It becomes this escalation.
And Romanka, the sound guy.
Poor Romanka.
Yeah.
Seems like he was often the butt of their jokes, the quiet one. But the sources say he got increasingly uneasy as things got weirder.
Understandable.
Yeah, he eventually leaves.
Yeah.
But before that, he apparently felt like he was being watched. Starts sending out these surveillance videos he took.
Surveillance videos?
Of Mike and another figure, this Schwatten character, doing secret weapon tests.
Schwatten, the sponsor.
Exactly. The mysterious sponsor. Provides the weapons, the booze, even the studio, the Schwatten bunker.
And his motives are?
Completely unclear. Seems potentially sinister, honestly. The relationship between him and Mike feels tense, transactional.
And he's the one bringing in weird stuff.
He is. It starts sort of whimsically, a prepared rubber duck, that blowgun shooting gummy bears you mentioned.
The gummy bears, right.
But then it moves into genuinely unsettling experimental devices, things that feel dangerous.
Okay, so it's not just talk. Stuff is actually happening. The weird items are Rickard's theories, Mike talking about Gasbold and dictators.
Exactly. And the explosion in the studio.
There was an explosion.
Apparently. Just sort of mentioned in passing almost. Plus, Mike's homemade elixirs.
Elixirs? What was in them?
The sources mentioned dubious ingredients. Doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
It all paints this picture of escalating strangeness, things getting out of control.
And then comes the logbook.
Right. Massive turning point. Mike finds something called Doza Crew Logbook, hashtag 494.
And what's in it?
Details about space travel, a place called Regulus 5, some kind of disease turning people into monsters, an aggressor named Graph Paste. Really heavy stuff.
And Mike's reaction.
He finds it
War.
boring. Yeah. Just dismisses it, which is incredible, really, given how central all those elements become later on. It's like he found the key and just tossed it aside.
Wow. Okay, so the weirdness keeps escalating after that.
Oh, yeah. Rickard gets abducted.
Abducted? By who?
By the SSS, the Solar Soldatenstaffel.
The Soldatenstaffel? Okay, that sounds ominous.
Doesn't it? Then Ramanka, feeling watched, sends those surveillance videos of Mike and Schwatten testing weapons.
The ones he took before he left.
Presumably. And then it all culminates in Mike's apparent death.
Apparent death.
Yeah, it seems he gets hit by an energy pulse from some kind of metallic figure. The Schwattenbunker studio is left in ruins.
So the podcast just ends. Like that.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A very dramatic end to a show that started out talking about guns and drinking beer.
Okay. That definitely sets the stage for something bigger. Which brings us to the Doza crew. What do we know about them from this logbook, #494?
Well, their story, as we get it, is really fragmented, almost metaphorical sometimes. Logbook, #494, specifically fragment P is key.
Fragment P.
Got it. It's very introspective.
Yeah.
Lots of questions about pushing boundaries, finding meaning in, like, this void. They seem to be witnesses to some kind of original violence in orbit around Regulus 5.
Regulus 5 again.
Exactly. And they feel trapped, like events are repeating endlessly.
What stands out from their logs? Any specific themes or phrases?
Yeah, definitely. This focus on inner reflection. A sense that something's dangerous, poisonous, maybe a portal they mention. And this recurring phrase, Des is Ned normal.
This is not normal.
Right. And this powerful idea of their rap music creating invisible barriers. Their words are like knives saving light. It's very poetic.
Rap music creating barriers.
Sounds like it. There's even a mention of a Dr. Oates rapping from orbit about the chaos. It's this strange mix of art and, well, survival.
And Regulus 5 is definitely their main location.
Seems so. Analysis of another entry, voice recorder log Bucheintrag 75568, confirms it, but it's portrayed as really contradictory, difficult.
How so?
It pushes them into deep philosophical questions. There's mention of a gravity system mishap, general uncertainty, but also this sense of sticking together using laughter and dreams to cope, and this constant unrelenting drive for answers.
So it's not just logs, their music is part of the story too.
Very much so. It feels like another layer. Tracks like Infekt, Nebelnacht, Ewiger Streifzug, Schattenwesen.
Shadow beings.
Yeah. These songs explore themes of crisis, transformation, these zombie-like figures, which seems to directly mirror what they describe happening on Regulus 5.
So the music reflects their reality.
Or maybe shapes it. Or copes with it. Their Regulus songs might even be metaphorical parallels. It's like a sonic diary, processing their experience. The Schattenwesen idea keeps coming back, connecting to that endless violence they mention. Maybe the music is the barrier.
Okay, this is getting complex. How does this Doza crew stuff connect back to Mike and MWF? It feels separate.
But it's not. The connections are, well, they're pretty startling once you see them.
Like what?
For starters, Mike might have an alter ego, Mickelt, who appears on nearly every track of a Doza crew album called Doder Watt. Nickel.
With a lowercase m and L.
Exactly. And one track is even called Doza Oda Watt. Plus, that album features tons of names we recognize from the MWF saga. It feels deliberate, like a breadcrumb trail.
Wow. Okay.
And get this. Studio sounds, identifiable as coming from the Schwattenbunker, have apparently been found on Doza crew tracks.
Wait, so they might have been recording in the same place as Mike and Rickard?
It certainly suggests a much closer link than you'd first think. Maybe overlapping timeframes, maybe something else.
Yeah. What else?
There's an individual named Kai Rem involved with the Doza crew. He's even on an earlier track, Heider bis Wolkig, which suggests he might have been around the MWF sphere for a while.
Kai Rem. Okay, keep that name in mind.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Mike himself actually appears on the cover of another Doza crew album, Neon Gulb.
He's on the cover.
Yep. So some people interpret the Doza crew's music as this echo of MWF's chaos, maybe a commentary on technology, control, maybe even Mike trying to communicate after his death.
It's like layers upon layers. And didn't you mention the team analyzing this stuff also had weird experiences?
Yeah, the DOZ-CREW analysis team. They reported unsettling things happening and then just stopped their show abruptly. Adds another weird meta level to it all.
Okay, mind blown slightly. Let's pivot to the Nova crew. Their story sounds pretty grim.
It really does. They enter the picture in what they call a fucked up world, tyrannical ruler named Graf Paste, constant disasters. Logbook #001 lays it all out. Very bleak.
Graf Paste, he sounds pleasant.
Right. And the Nova crew themselves, Florian, Karina, Sanja, Christian, there's not exactly shining heroes. They're described as dysfunctional.
How so?
Well, their failures seem to come from their own flaws. The big one is Florian making some critical mistake that causes a sun stabilization project to fail. Basically dooms their world.
Yikes. Bad decisions, irresponsibility.
Exactly. Those are key themes for them.
So how do they get out and end up on Regulus 5?
It's kind of accidental. They get rescued, apparently through a wormhole.
A wormhole. Okay, that fits the sci-fi vibe.
Yeah, it transports them to this peaceful parallel dimension. And from there, somehow they make it to Regulus 5, where initially they're welcomed as heroes.
Initially. But didn't they send a warning?
They did. A really disturbing message from Regulus 5. They call it a trap. They warn about Luna, whoever or whatever that is.
Luna.
And they mention the mainframe, GRD, life, and significantly Kyrem.
Kyrem again, the guy from the Doza crew.
The very same. And then the message just cuts off. It completely flips the script on Regulus 5 being some kind of paradise.
So contradictory descriptions again. Paradise and trap. And what's GRD? Any ideas?
Not explicitly defined, no. But given their background, maybe some kind of group or system they escaped from. Government? Research division? Hard to say.
So themes for the Nova crew. Bad choices, tyranny, desperate rescue attempts.
Yeah.
But maybe a hint of hope with that parallel dimension?
A fleeting hint, maybe. But mostly it feels like a cautionary tale. A critique of Graf Paste's tyranny.
And there's music linked to them too, Graf Paste lyrics.
Yeah, lyrics expressing anger, rebellion against him.
Yeah.
They describe the ruined world, the failed mission, Florian's screw-up.
Does it offer any hope?
Interestingly, yes. Buried in there is this slight hint of hope, a new beginning for the Doza crew, specifically.
For the Doza crew, that's specific.
It is. And then there's another track, Lunatic. That one seems to detail the failure of the parallel dimension reuniting with Luna, and it ends with that big warning about Regulus 5.
Okay, so MWF goes boom. The Doza crew are on Regulus 5, experiencing weirdness and making music. The Nova crew escape their hell, land on Regulus 5, and warn it's a trap, mentioning Kyrem. It feels like everything is pointing towards Regulus 5.
Exactly. The Regulus phase. That's the convergence point. Regulus 5 is the nexus, paradise and trap, potential and danger. All roads lead there.
And it's not just these crews. You mentioned Grindman Frieden's work.
Yes. After Mike's death, this anonymous package shows up from them. Expedition reports about Regulus 5.
What did Grindman find?
Alarming stuff. They observed this orbital portal, always active, and the population. They were in a really bad state.
How bad?
Deeply unsettling descriptions. Neglect, enervation-like, total lack of energy, empty gazes, minimal interaction. Their language was fragmented. Signs of inner torment, memory loss, inability to think clearly, no emotional connection.
Sounds almost zombie-like.
That's the comparison made in the sources, yeah.
Okay.
And Grindman speculates it might be linked to Graf Paste.
Graf Paste influence reaching Regulus 5. Okay. And the SSS, the ones who supposedly abducted Rickard.
They're there too. The Grindman reports mention the SSS actively blocking research on Regulus 5.
Blocking research? Why?
Good question. It raises a lot of suspicion internally at Grindman about the SSS's motives, what they're hiding. Their presence is definitely obstructive and suggests they have a serious interest in the planet. Maybe control.
And the mainframe the Nova crew mentioned, anything more on that?
Still ambiguous, but it's a key piece of their warning. Given all the weird tech, Schwatten, maybe it's some kind of AI, a simulated reality. It hints at some kind of control system on Regulus 5.
Which could tie into the population state.
Potentially, yeah. And it brings us back to Kyrem.
Right. The sound engineer who replaced Romanka, member of the Doza crew, mentioned in the Nova crew warning.
Observed acting suspiciously by the analysis team. He's right in the middle of everything. And if he has expertise in advanced tech, maybe he's linked to the mainframe. Or the weird weapons from MWF. He feels crucial, possibly sinister.
So Regulus 5 is just chaos, contradictory, unstable, and Grindman seems more worried about their money than anything else.
The reports mentioned recommending internal observation only, citing financial risks. It definitely suggests secrecy, hidden agendas. They might know more than they're letting on or have their own reasons for being involved.
Okay, let's try to pull back and look at the big picture. What are the main connections tying all this together? And what are the biggest mysteries left?
Thematically, you see chaos, transformation, the search for meaning, the power and danger of tech, decay. These run through MWF, Doza, and Nova. It's all interconnected on that level.
And that idea about Graf Paste being like an information virus.
Yeah, that's a compelling interpretation, isn't it? Something that spreads, infects, changes things fundamentally. Not just a person, but an idea or force.
It fits the fragmented, almost mimetic way information seems to spread in this story. But the unanswered questions, there are so many.
Oh, absolutely. What was Rickard really on to before the SSS grabbed him? What did Romanka see in those videos? What's Schwatten's actual endgame? What is the mainframe? What's Kyrem truly after?
What caused the original catastrophe on Regulus 5?
Exactly. And Maybe sillier, but still nagging. What was the deal with the Fliesentisch? The tiled table Mike kept mentioning in voicemails to Romanka.
The tiled table, right? That felt so random but specific. Could it mean something?
Who knows? In this story, maybe everything means something.
So we've gone from a guns and beer podcast to dimensional travel, conspiracies, zombie plagues, AI control, maybe. It's been quite a journey, a really fascinating deep dive.
It really has. And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? Could the sheer chaos and dark humor of early MWF have somehow opened a door, created a vulnerability for all this strangeness to pour through?
Or was someone pulling the strings all along, Schwatten, Kairam, someone else, using MWF as a catalyst?
That's the big question, maybe. We definitely encourage everyone listening to revisit the sources, listen to the Doza crew music, look at the MWF artifacts. Keep these questions in mind.
Absolutely. And share your theories. We'd love to hear them. Figuring this all out feels like an ongoing process. Every little detail might be a clue.
Yeah, definitely explore the music, the logs, but hopefully this deep dive has given you a framework, a way to see the connections in this incredibly complex and unsettling universe.
We hope it's given you some valuable insights into this very strange, very compelling story.